Hi, and welcome to Brew It Yourself. My name is Jamie Fowler. I'm the Education Director for True Grist Homebrew Club. True Grist is a homebrewing club serving Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, and surrounding areas. You can find out more information at truegrist.ca. There you can find our homebrewing forum and lots of information on a variety of brewing topics and events. The four basic ingredients we use to make beer are malted barley, which can come in the form of grains or extract, hops, which we get in the form of hop cones or hop pellets and contribute bitterness as well as a wide variety of different flavors, yeast, which we use to ferment the beer, and water. Now, water can be a very complicated topic if you let it, but for our purposes today, you just want to make sure it smells and tastes good. The most important thing is to treat it for chlorine, which you can do using Campden tablets, or you can just pre-measure your water the day before brew day and leave it in an open container so that the chlorine dissipates. The first brewing style that we're going to look at is small batch extract brewing. This is a quick and simple way to learn how to homebrew. It's a little bit more expensive because we use extract instead of grains, and it gives you somewhat fewer choices in flavors. But this lack of choice can be mitigated by using a small amount of specialty grains in your brew. We start out by making the wort. If you're using specialty grains, you start by steeping them in hot water. Once they've steeped for about 30 minutes, we add our malt extract to the water, and this liquid is called wort. Extract can be bought as liquid or dried extract, and you can get that at any homebrew shop. Once we've made our wort, it needs to be boiled. During the boil, we add hops at various points, depending on what we want to get from the hops. Hops added early in the boil add bitterness, and hops added later in the boil add flavor and aroma. After it's boiled, we need to cool it as quickly as possible. This helps clarify the wort, and it also helps to ensure it doesn't become infected with wild yeast or bacteria. It's important to note that anytime after the boil, anything that comes in contact with the wort needs to be sanitized. This is easiest to do using a no rinse sanitizer that you can get at any home brewing supply shop or winemaking shop. Once we've chilled our wort to our fermentation temperature, which is normally near the same as room temperature, we transfer it to a fermenter, such as a bucket or a carboy. At this point, we need to mix some oxygen into the wort. At smaller volumes, this can easily be done by shaking your fermenter or stirring the wort vigorously. You can also just allow it to splash as it transfers from your boiling kettle into the fermenter. Once we've got the wort in the fermenter, we need to add yeast. The easiest way for beginners is to use dried yeast, which just gets sprinkled onto the surface of the wort. You allow it to rehydrate for 15 minutes and then mix it into the liquid. This is a bucket style fermenter with an airlock inserted in a hole in the lid. The airlock allows CO2 that's produced during fermentation to escape from the fermenter without allowing air back into it, which is a potential source of infection. We allow the beer to ferment for 1 or 2 weeks and then to age for a further 2 weeks or more, depending on the type of beer and the type of yeast that we're using. Finally, it's time to package our finished beer. The simplest way to package it is to use a bottling bucket and a bottling wand. Um, During this step, a measured amount of sugar is added to the beer, and then it's transferred into bottles. This small amount of sugar is fermented by the yeast, but this time it's trapped in the beer because it's in a capped bottle. So that's what causes the carbonation. Our next brewing style that we'll talk about is all grain brewing. This type of brewing is often done in volumes of about 5 to 10 gallons, which is 19 to 38 liters. All grain brewing gives us a wider range of ingredient choices, but it requires a lot more space and equipment and a lot more work. The first step in all grain brewing is the mash step. During this step, we are extracting starches from the cracked malted grains, and then enzymes in the grains are converting those starches into simpler sugars that the yeast can ferment. Mash times can vary, but they're usually approximately 60 minutes. Once the mash is complete, we drain the liquid from the mash, and then we rinse the mash with a measured amount of hot water to extract as much sugar as we can. This is a picture of a mash inside a mash tun. In this case, the mash tun is a converted insulated cooler. Just like the extract brew, we need to boil our wort and add hops at various times. Cooling this amount of liquid requires some sort of heat exchanger. That might be an immersion chiller, a counterflow chiller, or a plate chiller. This cannot be accomplished very easily using an ice bath because the amount of liquid to cool is much greater. Once it's chilled, of course, it's transferred into a fermentation vessel and yeast is pitched. Liquid yeast gives you a much wider variety of options, but also requires some special handling. This is a batch of approximately 20 liters in a glass carboy fermenter with an S-type airlock fitted. And finally, it's time to package and carbonate. Many homebrewers brewing at this volume choose to package their homebrew in homebrew style kegs. Beer packaged this way can be force carbonated by connecting a canister of carbon dioxide and a regulator. This is a typical homebrew style keg, as well as a carbon dioxide cylinder and regulator with the hoses connected. Thanks a lot for watching. You can get more information at truegrist.ca. You can also email me at education@truegrist.ca or check out your local homebrew shop at shortfingerbrewing.com or camillejuices.com.